We will rise again to glory then, soar into the sky. If you stop and see, then you just might believe. We're unstoppable, powerful, enough to beat the odds. If you love me, you will see the flames inside of me.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Demon War as I sweep some bangs out of my eyeball area thing. Alright, where were we? October 24th. October 15th. That's the most recent one. October 24th, you dingus ball. Oh, right after sex. The glory of it all. I woke up that morning by myself, alone in bed. James was nowhere to be found, but I had to assume that he was out training. We were getting closer and closer to the day when we were going into battle with the Demon Lord, so it made sense for him to be on top of his training. However, I couldn't exactly stop the feeling of loneliness rushing through me. I at least wanted to see him off, but I had to understand this was preparation for war. Let me just make sure my volume's all the way up, because I don't feel like it is. Oh, it is actually. Okay. 55? 55? There we go, it's 55 now. But the reward was me going home after all. Day 5 in the Demon World. There we go. Had it really been that long? I want to imagine it like a vacation, but the situation was the polar opposite. Sorry. This was a week away from the normalcy, despite it being barely normal in the first place. Besides, I was marrying a demon. There was nothing normal about that. How much time had gone by in the human world? Were people worried about me by now? Questions plagued my mind for a brief moment before I let out a sigh of defeat. I guess I'll figure it out when I get home. Whenever that is.
Don't worry, darling.
Fuck.
You'll be home soon enough.
Stop! How do you... Shut up, Diana! Reading my mind. I hate when people do that, read my mind. You know, don't you know that? You know that feeling, right? When people read your minds. I turned my head to see Diana standing by the door with a plate of warm pancakes. Pancakes! I would never figure out how Diana managed to make them, but staring at the plate made my mouth water.
Something warm. Here.
Thank you. Diana walked over and handed me the plate and utensils to eat with. I didn't even ask to start eating. The first bite was heavenly, and the expression on my face apparently made Diana chuckle.
I'm glad you enjoy it.
Oh, well. I blushed and swallowed the bite full in my mouth before looking up at Diana. Thanks!
You're welcome.
Diana chuckled as I continued to eat happily. As the thought crossed my... I was doing so good. As the thought crossed my mind, I couldn't help but look up and observe Diana as I ate what she made for me. Diana was really doing a lot to help me get home on top of having the war to deal with. I could tell that she had her reasons for doing so, but it seemed like there was a lot of work she had to do, and I felt a little sorry for her. Still, I was thankful that she was willing to help me and leave this world for my own. Help me leave... Okay. Diana smiled a bit before looking away and sighing. What was on her mind?
Dear, may I ask you something?
You may ask me something? Sure. What was Diana curious about? Diana turned her head to me and stared with a blank expression. I was a little concerned as to why I received such a stare, but I mentally shook it off.
Have you truly dealt with the angel problem? I haven't heard any word from them since last night, so I assume you have. But I need to be sure.
Well... Alright, everything that happened in the last episode has come rushing back. It hit me all at once like, well... Welcome back to reality, out of your pancake fantasy world, Sexto. I stared at her for a moment, taking in her question. I really wasn't sure how to answer it. It wasn't clear if we managed to get away from the angel's sight or not. They didn't invade my dreams last night, that was for sure. Haters are like, hold up, they're doing something. We should leave them be for now. No, the angels sat and washed with popcorn. It's like a free porno for the angels. But could that even be considered taking care of the problem? I took a breath before answering, going with my gut. Sorry. Ugh, I had hiccup. I don't know. Be truthful. It'll get you places. I truly didn't know. All I knew was that Seto is what Seto told me, but I knew better than to tell Leano from just what Seto warned me about. Oh boy. Dana's eyebrows furrowed, but she nodded.
I see.
Do you, though? You only have one eye. Diana stared at me, digging into my gaze to try and find some sort of other answer in my eyes. However, I remained steadfast. I didn't want to worry her anymore. James and I could handle it on our own. Oh my gosh, what if, like, we're thinking about the whole Seto's an angel thing, and Damien's like, I know your secret, girl. According to Seto, we could. Did I read that? Nope. Nope, I did. Okay, I did. Diana sighed before turning to leave.
Alright. May today go smoothly.
She says, bowing. I nodded as she left. I hoped today would go smoothly as well. Another round of surprise would kill me. Lo and behold, that was! As I arrived in the hall for training, I was at the hall of training. I was surprised to see Seto in the room instead of Diana. Seto? Seto turned to me and nodded his head.
You will be training with me today.
No.
I apologize for my lady's absence.
You scare me. What do you mean? Where's Diana?
Unfortunately, I am not allowed to say.
Well...
All I can say is that she is seeing to herself for the day.
Bro, she's playing Overwatch, I swear. I pressed my lips together into a fine line. It wasn't a good excuse, but if it didn't have it... But if I didn't have a choice in the matter, then there was no use in fighting it. I pulled my circlet off... I'm gonna start beatboxing soon. I pulled my circle of a wrist. It's a circle of a... My dog just gave up behind me too. She's like, she just jumped off the bed like, I can't handle this anymore. I pulled my circlet. That's such a stupid word. Word. Oh my gosh, I give up. Off my wrist and chucked it in front of me, forming the floating ring barrier around my body. Look at this, Seto, look what I can do! Alright, then don't hold back. He's like, oh, I won't, bitch, cracks knuckles. Seto nodded and prepped his stance, aiming his spear in my direction. I had to use this new training partner as a new experience. Not everyone would fight like Diana, so this was a good challenge for me. Fighting with Seto was no easy task. He was fast and thought 10 steps ahead of me, catching me off guard at some points. Still, I could tell that he was putting up a good fight with my defense. What surprised me was how time passed without me even noticing it. The more I classed with Seto, the more ignorant I became of the sky's eventual descent from light purple to dark orange. Soon enough, our training had ended. The words and the scenery didn't match with the colors and how it changed, whatever. I panted, out of breath, but surprisingly still on my feet. I didn't understand how or why, but I could only assume that I was getting better, which was a good thing. These animals will not stay still. Seto smirked as he caught his breath as well, stretching with a spear behind his shoulder blades.
My lady trained you very well. I believe you'll be able to handle yourself in the siege to come.
I grinned, happy to hear that I had impressed Diana's top guard with my skills. I only trained for a couple of days, but showed a great improvement. Maybe the demon world was aiding me in becoming a stronger person. Thank you, Seto. Seto nodded before walking to the exit of the room.
Now, please excuse me. I must see to the incubi. You are free to come with me if you'd like.
I shook my head. My bedroom was calling for me to return, and I deserved a night of rest. Besides, I would only have been a distraction for the boys. I began to walk towards my room, exhausted and tired. However, I passed by the library. I stopped walking at the voice at the voice that slowly crept from the crack of the door.
This game is getting tiresome, Azayor.
Oh boy. Oh boy, something spooky's happening here. Oh boy. Oh boy! I quickly peeked in and silently gasped to see the copycat gripping Diana's neck. She looks very okay with that happening. And tilting her body back while Diana was on her knees, her head dropping back to let her face look up at the ceiling. Diana, however, seemed to be unconscious but breathing, so the copycat wasn't choking her. Before I could rush in, however, Diana lifted her head and took hold of one of the copycat's wrists.
It's useless to fight me. I was born to take over and become the new you. I will not let you.
Just from the sound of Diana's voice, she seemed to be as calm as ice, despite a pair of hands clasping around her neck. Diana opened her eyes and looked at the ceiling, uncaring and still.
My will is stronger than your so-called power. It doesn't matter. I'll take over soon enough. That pathetic guilt you have in your body will bleed you dry.
I glared. Enough was enough. Barging in, I removed my circlet and prepared to throw it. Before I could, however, the copycat looked at me and grinned.
Oh, look! Harold Anderson's granddaughter is here.
Wait, you have guilt because you killed my grandfather? Well, technically, I killed your entire family, so there you go. An eye for an eye. I froze in place. How did she know my grandfather? Oh, right, we don't know about that. As I stared at the copycat, Diana turned her head and stared wide-eyed at me.
Harold Anderson's granddaughter?
Oh, and you don't know either. Well, shit. I switched my gaze to look at Diana, seeing her complete eye stare turned to a look of despair and fear. What was going on? Why bring my grandfather up? Don't bring my grandfather in this! Does she know him? What a switch right there, huh? The copycat licked her lips and released Diana, walking towards me as I tried to take in the situation.
It must have been so heartbreaking when you found out he passed away.
What do you know about my grandfather?
Stop it! Oh, nothing much. I only saw him once, when I went to the human world.
Whoa, Diana, zoom the hell out of here. Holy crap. Okay. Before she could continue, however, Diana pounced off the floor and attempted to tackle the copycat, only to fall through a vanishing after image. The copycat reappeared on the other side of me, grabbing the hand I held my circlet in, and danced her fingers over the steel of my weapon.
It's such a shame that he had to die. He could have been powerful enough to take control of the entire demon world with a wave of his hand.
Strong enough to do that, but not strong enough to live through her coming to the demon world? That doesn't make any sense. My mind went to a small frenzy. I knew my grandfather used magic, but he was that powerful? How could he have died then? Thank you. I looked at the copycat, feeling my endless desire for answers take over. How do you know my grandfather? The copycat smirked and opened her mouth to speak, but froze as Diana shouted, stopping her and causing me to gasp.
Because I killed him!
Can't cut this tension with a knife. No, that couldn't be. Not the feelsy music! I can't handle that. My heart began to shake and crumble within my chest as my mind became flooded with memories of his funeral. There was no official record of how he died, only that he passed away. This was the reason why? I slowly turned my head to Diana, seeing her on her hands and knees gripping the ground in anger and guilt. She kept her head down as she continued speaking.
When the boys left the demon world, I had to track them down and find out who took them away. In a blind and misguided need, I recast the spell they used to open the bridge between our worlds, and used the remainder of that man's life to come through. I can't ever ask for your forgiveness. I took his life, and I've been punished greatly for that choice. But I swear, on the ashes of my family, it was not something I wanted to do.
I could only stare at Diana, barely hearing her over the memory of rain hitting my grandfather's gravestone echoing in my mind. My grandfather was buried 6 feet beneath the ground because of her. The copycat clapped and chuckled beside me, but I didn't care enough to look back at it.
Well done, Miss Ayur. The first step of redemption is always the confession.
One word bounced through my head as I stared at Diana, watching her lower her head further onto the floor, with her forehead against the stone. That's wood flooring, thank you very much. Her body contracted over herself, moving her hair from her back and revealing the intricate demon marks across her skin. Sorry, I had to squint at that for a second. When the word became unbearably loud in my thoughts, I let it resonate out of my mouth. Why? But why? Diana kept her head to the floor as the copycat purred happily beside me. I had to place everything in perspective. Diana had saved my life but sacrificed my grandfather's. Was her saving me meant to be a debt repaid? She didn't know I was my she didn't know I was my granddaughter, yeah. She didn't know I was his granddaughter though. If she had already been punished, then that definitely couldn't have been the case. Then why would she save me if she had already killed a human? Why weren't angels hunting her down? Something wasn't right. I looked at the copycat, seeing her practically drool at the sight of Diana groveling. Are you really Madness? As it took in my question, the copycat looked at me with an oft glare.
Madness? Is that what Azair told you? Such a bad girl indeed, even without my help.
I need a drink so badly and I don't want to put my cup. There we go. I looked at Diana to see her body tense up. She lied to me? When the copycat chuckled, I turned back to see that wasn't the case.
Well, I'm not exactly Madness. I'm just a being that was created to enhance your story.
Whoa, whoa, fourth wall. It's there for a reason. Now it wasn't making any sense. My story, what the hell was it talking about? Are we set on a stone destiny, though? Aw, shit. I'm probably way off. What the hell was it talking about? At my confused face, the copycat laughed. Oh wait, nobody else knows about Stone Destiny except for Shadow and Angels. Never mind.
You wouldn't understand, little human. Yes, she would.
Oh dear. The copycat and I turned our heads to see Diana finally rising from the ground. Glaring deeply at her copycat, for a brief second I could sense the flinch that erupted from the copycat at the sight, but continued to look at Diana. I am so confused!
She may have grown attached to a demon, but that does not make her ignorant. She may be a simple human, but she is more than deserving to know everything the 5 worlds has to hide.
I am so confused. The power balance in the room seemed to shift as Diana took hold of the dominance from the copycat and made her own presence intensify with her words. She tilted her head slightly, letting me and the copycat see both of her eyes filled with pure malice and ill intent. Oh dear. As she glared, a hard rush of fear ran through me and a deep gold covered her eyes. I, shaking the air in the room with her gaze alone.
However, I'll tell her everything after I finally rip out your throat!
No, don't tell me now, though. Within the blink of an eye, Diana vanished and slammed to the copycat, jamming her elbow into the chest and sending it back. The copycat flew across the room and bounced off the bookshelves, causing some of the books to fall over as it dropped to its knees. Diana settled to her feet and walked towards it, forming her saber in her hand.
I should have killed you the moment you began to fester. That golden heart of yours always seems to get in the way, huh?
Diana suddenly rushed at the falling being, arching her saber to slash through it, but only swiped at its afterimage. The copycat reappeared behind Diana and kicked both of her knees out from under her, causing her to fall to the floor. I felt my instinct, said incubi. I felt my instinct jump. Ugh. But was it my fight to join in? Everything about the situation was blurred and confusing. Who was right? Who was wrong? Which Diana was to blame? My heart knew that the real Diana was innocent. The copycat must have forced her to do something horrible, to do the horrible thing she did somehow. The question still remained, however. Would I help or watch? I hate you, but... Help, Diana. I don't want Diana to die. Help. I couldn't stand idly by and let Diana fight this thing alone. If I was somehow involved, then this became my fight as well. I focused my energy into my circlet and swung it violently at the copycat, causing a large chain to burst from it and clamp around the copycat's neck with my holding on the circlet. Copycat's neck with my holding on the circlet like a handle. The copycat arched back and gripped the chain, clawing at it as it choked. I continued to pull back to either continue choking it or bring it away from Diana. My energy concentrated on the chain, making it stronger and tighten around the copycat. Diana! Do it now! Diana quickly looked up and gripped her saber before pushing off the ground and slicing through the copycat's stomach. I could only stare wide-eyed as the blade cut all the way through the copycat's body, perfectly dividing her in half. Ooh. What was even more frightening about it was that instead of blood, black ooze dripped from the slice. From the stench, it was ink or something similar to the nature. Within seconds, the wound had vanished, making the copycat whole once more. Well, shit. Before it could attack, however, Diana carved through it again with her saber, painting the floor with a spray of its black ink blood. As the slice ripped through its torso, Diana twisted her blade and continued to slice apart the copycat like scraping a hot knife through butter. With each tear, the ink blood seemed to form it back together, but the copycat seemed to weaken each time. Soon it wasn't fast enough to completely heal the wounds on its body, its skin becoming painted black. The copycat let out a growl, somehow still alive, and gripped Diana's neck. I could tell that it was immensely weakened, but continued to fight on. A shadowy aura bounced around it as a second voice, one I couldn't recognize, echoed behind Diana's.
You will not defeat me!
Who the hell's that?
Yes, I will!
Diana quickly grasped onto the copycat's neck and began to crush it, making the copycat let go of her and take hold of Diana's wrist, hoping to stop her.
My name is Isaur, descendant of the Lilith bloodline and queen of the rebellion. I will no longer be bound by the power of your muse!
The power of your muse? Before I could even attempt to ponder what the hell she meant, Diana dug her nails into the copycat's neck, effectively stabbing through her skin and burying her nails into his throat.
You will not control me anymore!
With Diana's shout, her hand suddenly ignited into purple flame, catching onto the copycat as Diana's fist tightened further into its neck. With a bubbly cry, the copycat spasmed before igniting into a flesh pyre. I think we took care of her. The smoke that arose into the air faintly reminded me of a book burning. The smell of paper and ink becoming ashes and soot. Little by little, the copycat started to burn away. Eventually, Diana's fingers finally revealed themselves as the ashes around her fingers fell to the ground with the remainder of what was the copycat. I felt myself step back and collapse onto the floor, taking everything in and trying to adjust myself. The entire situation became a wild ride, one full of surprises and confessions. It was hard to place all together. I'm still very confused. I wasn't the only one who hit the floor. Diana fell to her knees, staring at her hand as the ashes of the copycat faded into the air like dust.
It's over.
I stared at Diana, seeing her gaze burn into her palm and watching it shake slightly. Her eyes, however, a small glimmer that I had not recognized from her. It was almost innocent kind, like she had been under a spell for many years and had finally been freed. Was this the true Diana? Diana gripped her fist and brought it to her forehead, inhaling deeply and stopping herself, most likely from crying. Diana, you need a hug? I felt lost, unsure of what to do as I watched her try and catch herself. I'm sure she had a lot to say, and while I very much deserved every explanation she could give, she had just done something that seemed both metaphorically freeing and heavy on her soul. Leave it for another day. We don't need to know. I would get my answer another time. Diana needed this time alone. I slowly stood and began to walk out of the room, trying to disturb her, but stopped at the sound of Diana's voice.
I'll explain everything soon. Please, just...
I know. It's okay. I wasn't uncaring. I knew she needed some time to recuperate. I looked back to see her stare up at me, silent tears rolling down her cheeks as her expression gave away her surprise. I smiled and left the room, knowing that I would know the truth eventually. Oh dear, save this for the next episode. Next episode, I'll see you guys later. Hate me all you want, but see you later.